Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. Earlier this year, or last year, I can't remember, I did a book called 1000 Facts About Ireland. For the month of March, I've decided to focus on Ireland. People have asked me to do a video about our history, the Irish potato famine, our relationship with England. However, the very first thing people ask me to do is do a video about the Celts. Many people see the Celts as basically the Irish equivalent of the Vikings. However, that's an oversimplification, mainly because the Celts didn't originate from Ireland. The Celts came from Austria. To which you might think, yeah, but obviously they emigrated to Ireland, right? And that's true. But they also emigrated to Scotland, Wales, the Isle of Man, Cornwall, which was its own nation at the time, Brittany, which now resides in France, and Galicia, which resides in Spain. These are known as the 7 original Celtic nations. And that is the first fact about the Celts. Let's dive in. The first record of the word Celt was in a text from 500 BC, which was written by the ancient Greek historian Hecataeus of Miletus. Linguist Patricia de Bernardo Stembel stated that Celt is derived from the Greek word Keltoi, which means the tall ones. Based on archaeological evidence, the Celts have existed since 1300 BC. Although the swastika symbol is associated with Nazism, it's common knowledge that it was used before by the Chinese. However, the swastika has been used by many ancient people, including Slavs, Aztecs, Greeks, and the Celts. Very little is known about the Celts because they passed down their knowledge orally and left almost no written accounts. We know more about the Celts because of ancient Greece than from Ireland. Celts spoke Pictish, Lusitania, Celtiberian, and Lepontic. These languages are now extinct. The Celts also spoke ancient Greek and Latin. Although people tend to see the Celts as warriors and soldiers, most of them were farmers and cattle herders. The Celts created Halloween. They called the festival Samhain, which means summer's end. Samhain was the end of the Celtic year. It's also worth mentioning that Samhain is now the Irish word for November. By the way, I've seen this mentioned in many other videos and they nearly always mispronounce it. It is spelled this way, but it is pronounced Samhain. I know this because it's the month where my birthday lies, so take my word for it. At the end of the summer, the Celts believed that a rift between this world and the next weakened, allowing the deceased to spill over into our reality. The Celts built enormous bonfires to keep these ghosts away from the living. This began the tradition in Ireland of constructing bonfires every Halloween. By the way, I genuinely didn't know that until recently. I thought every country has bonfires, but no, it's just us. You're missing out, guys. Some sources say the Celts invented soap. This isn't true, but they were the ones to shape it into a ball, making it resemble the soap that we know of today. In 300 BC, the Celts invented chainmail. The Celts prided themselves on their jewelry more than anything else. According to the Greek philosopher Posidonius, the Celts admired jewels with, quote, childish boastfulness and love of decoration. Irish people are stereotyped for having red hair. The ginger gene, which is actually called MC1R, is believed to have stemmed from the Irish Celts or the Vikings. Although the ancient Greeks wanted to do trade with the Celts, they weren't interested until they found out that the ancient Greeks had a little thing called wine. After that, the tribe opened a trade system with them. In exchange for wine, the Celts traded furs, tin, salt, and amber. The number 3 is very important to the Celts. It represents the realms, sky, land, and sea, different types of god, personal gods, tribal gods, and spiritual gods. Personal gods protected individual Celts, tribal gods protected the group, spirit gods protected their home. Although the Romans described the Celts as dirty and unshaven, this is untrue. Ironically, the Celts introduced soap to the Romans. Although the Celts' appearance varied from tribe to tribe, historians know they took good care of their hair ornaments. Combs, hollow golden balls, and hairpins have been found in Celtic archaeological sites. Some Celts had mohawks, while others had shaved heads. Some had long hair and scruffy beards, while others had short hair and clean-shaven faces. Also, for certain tribes, it was mandatory for warriors to bathe before their evening meal. By comparison, in England, 1500 years later, people were bathing about once a month. The Celts wore metal rings around their necks called torques. Although the torque looked like a fancy necklace, it supposedly gave the wearer magical powers. Although Celts wore them in battle to intimidate her enemy, it backfired since the torque was really heavy. Although we now use the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar was the most common calendar 2,000 years ago. During this time, the Celts used a different type of calendar called the colony calendar. Like the modern calendar, each of the 12 months contained 29 or 30 days. Since the years were composed of 354 days, the Celts added on an extra month every 2.5 years to even it out. One of the most important things about the Celts were they were among the first tribes to make iron swords. This concept became the norm throughout Europe in the 6th century BC. The Celts sold iron swords throughout Europe, making them incredibly wealthy. According to historians such as Aristotle, Diodorus, and Athenaeus, many Celts had same-sex marriages, which is insanely ironic because we only legalized that again in 2017. If they spared an enemy in battle, the Celt usually made them a slave to the tribe. Contrary to what many history books claim, the Celts did not fight naked. During battle, they wore metal plates, leather padding, and chainmail. They fought with swords, axes, two-handed hammers, and javelins. Like the Vikings, Celtic women had a lot of power in their tribe. They could own land, divorce, and engage in battle. Some women even trained soldiers to fight. Okay, here's a group you've definitely heard of. There's a separate sect of Celtic lore keepers from the 4th century BC called Druids. Although everyone is familiar with the word Druid, next to nothing is known about them. Historians have barely any understanding of their culture, beliefs, history, or even their clothing. Although Druidism is often depicted in stories as an ancient religion that believed in sacrifices, spells, and incantations, we have absolutely no evidence of their beliefs because they left no historical records. Although the Roman accounts claim the Druids sacrificed people and animals, historians like Noria Chadwick believe this was a fabrication. Although Roman engineers often get the credit for building the first reliable series of roads throughout Europe, the Celts beat them to it. Not because they were smarter or anything, but because they had to. Ireland is filled with bogs, so the Celts needed to build roads to travel on. They set oak planks in Longford in 148 BC to get around the mossy wetland. This area is now known as the Corilla Trackway. Celts believe in animism, which means they affirmed that spirits reside in everything: water, rocks, trees, and so on. As I've said, there are 7 different types of Celts, but the Irish Celts were the only Celtic tribe that were not invaded by the Greeks or the Romans. And finally, as you can see, there's much more to the Celts than you first thought, and they were much more educated than you believe. They're not just savages. Oh, yeah, wait, hold on, they are. Yeah, the Celts, they were headhunters. In fact, some of them set up shrines for their heads of the enemies to show off to their tribe. Nowadays, we show how many retweets we get on Twitter or how many likes our picture gets on Facebook, but back then, it was all about the heads. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe. Please let me know if there's any other aspects about Ireland you want me to do a video about, and I'll upload it as soon as possible. To learn more facts, check out my books. They're available on Amazon, on paperback, and Kindle. Thanks for watching. See you again.